Hi guys, welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Mark with your post-match reaction to the Newcastle defeat tonight against Borussia Dortmund. A little bit disappointing, I think. I think the last time I came on and did one of these myself, it was a little bit disappointing with the result, but a bit frustrating. We'll get stuck into the game in a second, but I think overall, I think the feeling maybe is along with the weather. A little bit damp, a little bit not a letdown, but it just feels a little bit frustrating that there were chances tonight for Newcastle to have taken something from that game. So we'll get stuck into it. I know the guys, there's loads of you in the chat tonight, so thank you for getting involved during the game when we weren't even here. So thank you for getting involved in that. I'll do the housekeeping bit first. If you are new to the channel, if you do like what we do, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. We're over 5,400 subscribers now, and we are getting towards that 5,500 mark. So thank you to everybody who's got involved with us so far. So we'll get stuck into it. The lineups for tonight, as Chris would normally do with this. So lineups for tonight, obviously 2 changes for Newcastle with Isak coming back into the side and obviously Almiron coming back into the side as well. There are a couple of names missing out of that Dortmund side. So I think there was a lot of positivity going into this game, wasn't there, for Newcastle fans? And I think the night was sort of, I think, well managed by Dortmund in the end. They were missing a few good players, a few of their key men, and they seemed to manage it well. But there were definitely opportunities there for Newcastle to have got something out of this game. I think certainly early on, Dortmund made a very big sort of play of looking for that gap in behind Kieran Trippier. He was, he's doing his normal thing. He was playing a little bit further forward as you do, or as he does. Sorry, with sort of Burn filling in sort of a little bit further back and almost making that 3. A lot of teams do that, and again, it's something that we see Trippier do week in, week out. I think Dortmund played it very cannily. When they broke with lots of players that even going into the goal. That they get, there's 4 or 5 players breaking into the box at that point, and it was all overloading Newcastle's defence, getting in behind the midfield, bypassing that midfield, and I think that was a key part for them. But the early exchanges were it was fiery, wasn't it? It was backwards and forwards. It was end to end. There was loads of chances early on. I think it was something like 6 shots in the first 15 or 16 minutes of the game, and it looked wide open. And it sort of, certainly from my point of view, thought in that early part that sort of almost suited Newcastle to be open, and Newcastle could break with the pace that goes forward with Isak and Almiron and especially Anthony Gordon as well. That would just play into Newcastle's hands, and it sort of it didn't really work that way in the end. I thought Gordon was magnificent. I thought he was excellent all night. And we'll come to man of the match and things later on. But I think he definitely set the tone. I think the Isak injury, I think, unsettled Newcastle for a little while. It took a little time for Wilson to sort of get into the game. But yeah, it's, I guess, frustrating again, I think is the word I'd go for that when there are those opportunities there. I'm going to jump into some of the comments. There's loads in tonight, so thank you very much for getting involved. So, yeah, Brian in the comments, how the hell do we lose that? Tonali was class when he came on. I thought Tonali did very well when he came on. I almost think he maybe should have come on early. I don't know what you guys think into the comment section. I thought Joe Linton was very, very off for much of his time on the field. I thought he looked tired very early on. I said in our group chat, he looked like he was blown after about 25 minutes, and there's that little bit of calmness that Tonali can bring to the centre midfield might have been key maybe earlier on in the second half, especially. So yeah, I thought Tonali did very well when he came on. Again, Anthony Gordon ran right. Yeah, he never stopped, did he? Backwards and forwards all night long. He was really. I said to Chris via text that I think for a long part he was almost Newcastle's only real threat. He looked the one most likely to unlock the door. He had that chance in the first half. He cuts inside and curls at the keeper, makes a good save. He has the one where he's played through on his left side by Isak, and he sort of hits it straight at the goalkeeper. I think a little bit more composure at that point from him. I think, as Ferdinand said at half time, he really should be keeping that low. He should be hitting the corner. I thought definitely felt that. If you're, going across the goalkeeper at that point, keeping it low, hitting the target, it opens up the door if the keeper does make a save for it coming out to others. But he hits the target, but he had an exceptional game. Again, Brian, there's loads from you. Didn't deserve to lose the game. No, I think Newcastle did enough to take a point tonight. Look, I think Dortmund managed the game really, really well. I thought certainly first half, I thought they played exceptionally well. They showed their experience, they showed their class, they showed their ability to break well, to manage Newcastle's midfield and attack. And there was a vast difference between Newcastle sort of breaking forward and when they got to break. There's really only 1, 2, or 3 players that were breaking. The midfield was too far behind. When Dortmund broke, it was generally 4 or 5 players in it. That they were exploiting the gaps that Newcastle had left, and especially that from that right back slot. And it's not to have a go at Trippier, but I think it is almost a game where it showed that a 6 is, that defensive midfielder is perhaps one for the future to really look at. As Trippier goes forward, the 6 drops in, splits the 2 centre backs, so it gives you a much firmer base at the back rather than being slightly lopsided as it looked a little bit at times. Certainly, if you look at the positioning map for the first half, it was quite narrow from Newcastle, but Trippier was. I mean, his average position was much further forward than Sean Longstaff, and we see that quite a lot. But it was the one thing that Dortmund tried to exploit a fair bit. So, and there wasn't too quick a reaction that had happened a number of times. And it's one thing to look at. And certainly at this level, you can, against the side with the experience of Dortmund, with the likes of Royce and that in the side, that they're going to be able to exploit those things a little bit better. But certainly second half, I thought slow going to start with, and then Newcastle sort of got their way back into it and then created those chances to the end. So I'll come away from my thoughts for a second. We'll go back into the comments. George had a grim feeling throughout the match. I think Murphy dislocated his shoulder. Yeah, that looked so unfortunate. What was he on? 3.5 minutes? And he lands really, really awkwardly and dislocates his shoulder. And I think your other comment there, the ref was shocking. Yeah, I thought the ref was really poor. It didn't influence the game an awful lot. And I'll come to the Callum Wilson one in a second, but I didn't think he overly influenced the game. There were no decisions in terms of outlandish penalty appeals, although I haven't seen the Almiron one from the first half. So if anybody has seen a replay of the Almiron penalty shot from the first half, I've got to be honest, on first sight of that, I thought that was a penalty. I didn't think he went looking for it. I thought he got cleaned out by the defender. And the fact that it wasn't even checked by VAR, I thought was a little strange, but I haven't seen a replay of it. So if there are any comments, if you have seen it, drop us a comment and just tell me what whether you think that was a penalty. But like I say, I don't think it was necessarily a game where the referee decided the game. We've seen those before, but he was very poor. And just proves we ain't got the minerals to compete. I have to disagree. I think these nights happen. You're not gonna go through a season. You're not going to go through a Champions League season winning everything. But I think Newcastle competed I think they showed at times quality, and I think at times showed a little bit of naivety as well in that it's their first, for a lot of these players, it's the first time playing at this level. So it's, results like this will happen, and against a good side like Dortmund, and I think a lot of people had written them off beforehand because of the age of the likes of Hummels and Royce, and because they were missing a couple of key players as well. They're a good side. They've got good pedigree. Even with they're not the Dortmund of a couple of years ago with the likes of Sancho and Haaland, but they're still a good side. So I do disagree with that comment, but you're welcome to it. Brian, again, I think we're still qualified. No doubt. I think frustrating for Newcastle in that regard. A win tonight puts 5 points clear of third with with half the game's gone, and that would have been just an ideal scenario, wouldn't it? So Marcus, never say we do not want to experience a brutal game. Pulls on the pitches. There was a lot of standing water. I think it was. You've seen the ball bounce and spray coming up and things. It's got to be, it's difficult conditions. But look, it was, I guess, obviously the same for both sides. I can't make an excuse for Newcastle in terms of the way the pitch is, but I thought they managed it well. It was difficult. Some of those balls that Bruno plays would just skip away from players, and that's not disappointing in terms of the way it's just frustrating because some of the balls looked excellent. There was one early second half that he plays cross field to Almiron, and Almiron looks like he would be away, and the ball just skips, and it ends up 10 yards ahead of Miggy, and he never had a chance. On a normal day, that one just sits up nicely for him, and it's just trying to adjust, isn't it? You adjust your game to the conditions, but it's got to be difficult given the amount of water that's there. George, Isaac's not any news? No, I haven't seen anything so far. It is a worry, and we talked about this previously about obviously injury. If Isaac gets an injury, obviously we know Callum Wilson's injury record. It then puts a little bit more pressure on Wilson to play more minutes than he perhaps should be. Losing Murphy as well, potentially that could be a little while if he has dislocated his shoulder and he has recovery time from that as well. Then the squad's starting to look a little bit thinner without Barnes. If Botman's out for another couple of weeks, it's starting to show just where Newcastle are in this process, where they have to get to. They haven't got the luxury of being able to bring in 5 or 6 different players in that guard. It is really, really early. They've done fantastically well, but it's just a worry, isn't it? When you've got one, if this is significant length of time, then it's relying on Wilson staying fit, and that is a concern for me. So, but let me know what you think in the comments. Let's have a quick scroll down here. There's lots of backwards and forwards. Brian, the free kick from Targett was quite. Look, I think Matty Targett, when he came on, I thought was very good. I thought it gives you another dimension going forward, doesn't he? He's good. Maybe he's not so good defensively as Dan Burn, but definitely gives you another option going forward, and is very good on set pieces. And that ball in showed. I was so unlucky. I mean, Callum Wilson manages to twist himself inside out to try and get that header, and it comes off it comes down off the sort of the underside of the bar. We've seen those before, where it comes down, hits the goalkeeper, and goes in, and you're just begging for that to happen, aren't you? And it's frustrating. That was a great effort. It was a great ball in, and I thought he certainly Targett when he came on looked very, very well, and signs of that. What we saw from Targett when he first came to the club. So a little bit more of that. Maybe he can start to force his way into the team as well, and give Burn a little bit of a rest as well, because Burns played an awful lot of football, and it will catch up with the squad. The more they play, the more injuries potentially could happen as well. So yeah, it's good to see him get some minutes. It's good to see him play that at that level as well. So let's keep going. Billy, good evening, Billy. Well, thank you for dropping in, mate. I hope, obviously, if you were on live tonight, I didn't catch you, so sorry for that. But I hope that went well for you. Wasn't a night, deserved a draw, played well. Yeah, exactly. Look, they said Dortmund are an experienced side. I thought they managed very well, except maybe it's the last sort of few minutes where it got a little bit more frantic, and certainly the early exchanges where it was very, very backwards and forwards. And it could have been 3-3 really early doors if it sort of created or took chances and things. But the worry is there. Yeah, I agree. Worried by the injuries. That is a concern. Definitely a little bit damp. Classic understatement. It was mildly moist, I think, as they using Top Gear for the track when they were doing that. It was mildly moist. We'll go with that one. I thought it was a little bit soggy. The podcat is asleep down here, and he was out earlier on and got very, very wet. Wasn't too happy about that. Billy again, the ref was dog shit. Mind for Mike Dean. Is that a little harsh on him? I mean, likening anybody to Mike Dean seems overly critical, to be honest with you, Billy. But yeah, it's fair. I thought he was poor, absolutely. Margot was more disappointed with the atmosphere, and we only see turn it because I'm always funny about criticising the atmosphere. I think we've talked about this before, that Newcastle, I thought any club, it has to work both ways. I think sometimes that the crowd have to get up for the players, and the players have to do something to build them up. And there's only so many times that you can have a player that runs sort of towards, puts in a good tackle or something, tries to pump the fans up. And there were times that I agree, there were times tonight where it felt a little flat. And I think there was a lot of frustration going on there with passes going astray, and it wasn't the usual crispness to Newcastle's play. And certainly those little balls that we normally see that go through, I thought Bruno was trying to probably one or two too many sort of almost Hollywood style passes to try and break gaps that weren't really there, or the ball just skipping up off the surface that wasn't helping him, and just stopped that. And it maybe has looked a little bit disjointed at times, but I think both ways. The atmosphere at times it can go a little flat. I think sometimes the players just have to do a little bit more, but it happens. So it doesn't matter which ground, except City sometimes, where it doesn't sound like anything. But the whole, I think the pre-game is almost perfection now from War Flags. They really, really, really good. Their displays and the way that the club do it, the way that War Flags get it done, the fan interaction. That I think there's always that lull, and sometimes that just goes on a little bit more. And I think the way that the game started, because things didn't go particularly to Newcastle's favour early on, sometimes that just drops down. And I think, look, but I said at the very beginning, these games happen. It's not going to be perfect every time. So last for I think definitely. I think it's the weather was awful. I mean, it's absolutely chucking it down out there at the moment, outside mine, and I'm not that far away from the ground, to be fair. It's absolutely lashing it down, and it's going to have an effect on it. But you play it, it's not like we're not used to this, the weather like this in this country. It rains a lot like this. William, good evening, mate. Watching that was like, it's just maybe it's a little harsh. I think it wasn't it wasn't the greatest performance in the world. completely agree with that, but I think there was enough there. There was enough signs there of competitiveness, certainly. But look, it's again, we always say you're entitled to your opinion, whatever it was there. So, where was it? Do you how Newcastle versus Dortmund pulling the shirt off? Look, yeah, I wanted to come to that as well. How is that not a free kick? Unbelievably, the referee is staring right at it. He must be 10 yards away. There's nobody in between him. He's looking straight at it. The Dortmund player's got a full grip of Callum Wilson's shirt and pulling down to the ground. How is that not a free kick? I mean, that's as clear a free kick as you could possibly hope to see. Is that not given? What? I mean, we complain about the level of refereeing in England in the Premier League. That was shocking. I mean, such a simple decision to make, and there were a few little ones like that where free kicks weren't given, and it's again just a level of frustration with the game that you've got such a poor grip on the game from the referee, and when you are staring directly at that happening, and you can see from the angle, the camera angle from behind him, so the referee's looking at the player with a full fistful of Callum Wilson's shirt, stopping and being able to move. It should be a free kick all day long. Absolutely awful. Again, Gordon, I come to the man of the match. Now, I think, Anthony Gordon was my man of the match, I think, by some distance. I think that he was head and shoulders above the level of most of the players. The one thing I haven't mentioned so far is Nick Pope's double save in the first half, which I thought was sensational. I thought the first one, I think they said in commentary, the first one was good. The second one was unbelievable. The ability to get himself back up and down again to pull off that second one, because it comes at him really quickly. It was exceptional. He deserves a lot of credit for that, and the save, I think, from beforehand as well. I thought he did very well. There were times, again, I think, looking at the way that Newcastle were playing around the back, that they ignore Nick Pope with the ball at his feet. So they ignore the ball back to the goalkeeper. Not all the time, but there were certain times where just thought a little outlet ball to Pope to then move it, switch the play across, but it then gets pulled back, and say Trippier goes to play, instead of playing the ball back, then tries to turn and go back the opposite direction. Or we saw Lascelles nearly play a ball back and then decide to change his mind. Other sides that we see at this level don't. The goalkeeper is part of that passage of play, and whether it's a subconscious thing from them, or whether it's purposeful that they're not, and especially in weather like this, it can be more difficult, I guess, as well. But it's that take nothing away from Pope's performance. I thought he did very well. There was one moment where I thought he should have caught the ball, and it was a really awkward punch away. But those saves first half were exceptional. Nothing against that. But for me, Anthony Gordon, I thought was very, very good. I thought he was my man of the match. I think that he's pretty much the best player on the park, to be fair. He was an absolute nightmare for them. He should have scored, really, I think, or at least forced the goalkeeper into a much more difficult save. He wanted to see a little bit more in getting the ball to him, running at the defence more, and it's a little bit slow at times getting him into those positions, really getting him one-on-one, because I think that would have benefited Newcastle, or would have punished Dortmund, especially with the lack of pace in the likes of Hummels. So that ability to get forward and really be a little bit quicker in that regard. And actually, Stu's put this in here: slow and build up play into the final third with 10 or 15 minutes to go. That again, it builds in it. It seemed a little bit disjointed at that point. But the deliveries into the box weren't there. There seemed to be I got the from set pieces, the corners, the free kicks, and Trippier's trying to fire it in above the goalkeeper, but the goalkeeper's handling it really well. I mean, he had a little moment with the one that sort of dropped really under the bar, but there needed to be a little bit of I think an alternative in that regard, and Target showed that when he put the ball in the box, got it on Wilson's head. So a little bit of a change in that. Try something different. The balls from outside the box have a pop. I was surprised almost to not see Fabian Schär hit one. If he can skim one across the deck and have it, it creates more havoc for a goalkeeper when it is coming across a skiddy surface like that. No goalkeeper wants to see that, and especially with the power that Fabian Schär can hit the ball. So, but yeah, the last sort of 10 or 15 minutes, come back to Stu there. It was disappointing to see that it was that slow play and that lack of directness, I think, is the way I put it, is that ability to get the ball into the box much more quickly. Try and utilize Wilson. I think he definitely should have scored that first opportunity. I think that I'd almost put my mortgage on that one. Not sure the wife would be too happy about that, but I put the mortgage on him scoring that one. But the goalkeeper makes a good save. And he's so unlucky, obviously, with the header that comes back off the bar. And then was it Fabian? I forget now. Was it Fabian Schär that then the deflection for the ball that loops up over the goalkeeper and comes back again off the underside of the bar? How those stay out? It's one of those, and it just goes on. It's one of those nights, isn't it? That unlucky in the end. I think Newcastle did enough to deserve a point, but unlucky on the night. But there's I think positives in that they've gone again toe to toe with one of Europe's elite sides over recent years, and they've not been embarrassed. Far from it. So yeah, it's frustrating. I'll go back to that word. I use that a lot. I am aware of that. Let's have a look. So let's go some more comments in here. So antagonizing Jordi Bruno played okay. I think there's a comment earlier on here from Steve. What's the point of Bruno? Can't pass forward, can't move forward, can't track, can't defend, can't shoot. Well, I thought he played all right tonight. I thought it's a difficult situation. I think Dortmund had a lot of joy and sort of overloaded Newcastle's midfield at times, or bypassed it. At others, certainly when they were trying to be on the break, that they were bypassing the midfield quite well, and it bypasses all three of them. I think Bruno was a little bit isolated tonight in that regard, that he was trying to do an awful lot. I think I'm trying to sort of look at his passing stats tonight, but he's over 80% passing. He doesn't create. He obviously didn't create any real chances tonight, but I thought he played very well. He won the vast majority of his duels on the ground as well. He didn't give away the ball an awful lot. There were times when he was playing, like I said, some of those little Hollywood passes that didn't come off, but I think that was more the conditions. But I thought he generally had quite a good game. He needed more help in that midfield, though, and I thought the other two lacked in that regard. I thought Sean Longstaff didn't have his best game in that regard. I thought Joe Linton looked off again, a little bit like the weekend. He wasn't quite at the races yet. And certainly when Willock came on, I thought Willock showed a different dynamic, certainly getting forward, that Newcastle have lacked. And that's big. I think that's a big one, is having Joe Willock back in the squad now. So that certainly might see Joe Linton a little bit of a rest to get himself back in. But he certainly didn't look his normal self. He definitely doesn't look his normal brutal self in that midfield. I think that's where Bruno lacked tonight, is the fact that he didn't have the kind of support and cast there to help him through. Bruno says there, I thought Bruno was fine personally, lots of problems. Yeah, he was probing, he was trying to move the ball, but again, I think his normal game, trying to play those balls through to Mickey. The ball in the first half, that little dinked ball over the top, was absolutely inch perfect from him again. Was it the Fulham game he did that last year where Mickey volleyed it in? And I genuinely thought he was going to do the same thing again. He just didn't have the touch. So yeah, it was. But that ball was exceptional. But again, those balls across that you see from him time and time again, just not working in the conditions that were there tonight. But I do think he was lacking a little bit of cast, the supporting cast in that midfield. Brian in here on that show on Tonali, we missed greatly. I agree. I think if he is given a significant ban, it is a big miss, and it's a big, especially when the numbers are thin. And I know we sort of touched on, but if you pick up an injury or two, and the fact that Joe's coming back from injury, and Joe Willock is now back from injury, but he's got to get match sharp. Tonali, if he goes soon, that is going to be a big miss, and he could be a significant miss for the rest of the season. We'll see in January if Eddie Howe does anything about whether there's a short-term deal or anything for somebody for the rest of the season. And we did that. The rumour has it video a couple of days ago where we were looking at the likelihood of Calvin Phillips or somebody like Ruben Neves as a sort of a loan deal from the Saudi League, whether anything like that would be sanctioned. It's definitely something I think Newcastle will consider if Tonali is given a 8 to 10 month ban. Definitely bodies in January. Certainly, if they can bring somebody in just as a stopgap until he's back in the squad, maybe that's the way forward. Let's have a look. Oh, screen's just gone back. Bear with us 1 second. Here we go. The mighty win. Robbed VAR twice. Miggy Penn. That's what I was saying before. The mighty win. I thought the Miggy one was a penalty. I know it wasn't checked, or certainly the commentator said that it wasn't checked whether it was, and they just weren't notified. But it looked to me a penalty. The Gordon shirt pull to start the goal. It looked. I haven't got too many complaints about the goal, to be honest with you. I thought that was. I don't think it sort of prevented Gordon movement too much. To be fair, I thought they were complaining about the tackle on him after the goal, and the tackle was perfect on him. But yeah, I can see your point with the shirt pull, maybe that, but I didn't think it impeded him too much in that regard. So so William Almond tried to. Almond's a funny one, isn't he? He looks great at times, and I thought certainly the start of the game tonight, I thought he looked quite bright. The run, obviously, the run into the box where he gets fouled, I guess. He looked bright. He looked like he was getting, but then there were times when he starts to dart forward, and then there were moments, certainly the second half, where he's driving forward with the ball, and you want him to release the ball much earlier than he does. He seems to just hang on to the ball a little bit too long at times. Certainly cutting in from that right-hand side, there were a couple of moments tonight where he looked like he just held the ball too long without having his head up to be able to pick a pass, or sometimes even he wasn't even sort of returning to play that ball back to Trippier, which we normally see, but he just sort of held on a little bit too long. There was one that, like I say, second half, he was running through, and I think it was Gordon was the outlet on the left-hand side, and he just held the ball. And by the time he played the ball, Gordon didn't have the space that he would have had he played it originally. So yeah, a little bit of that tonight, definitely. New Monkey, good evening, mate. Ref tried and succeeded being the centre of attention. I think he definitely got the centre of attention. He's definitely not winning any points from anybody. He's not getting a good review, I think, from anybody tonight. definitely not. Time and Tide, just unlucky. Should have had a few. But I think the two that come off the woodwork, definitely just unlucky. We could see those two on any other given day come back off the bar, hit somebody and go in, or bounce back to a Newcastle player, or just bounce back down and go in. So it's just one of those. Like we said, these sort of games happen. I think I probably said this about the Liverpool game earlier in the season, that you're never going to go through the seasons and be unbeaten or have everything go right. But it's just the reaction, I think, now that you want from this, that this is a defeat. It's a defeat to a good side. And we want to see a reaction. They go to Dortmund in 2 weeks, don't they? So to go out there and put on a performance in front of that yellow wall and give them one back, get a little bit of revenge for tonight again. So yeah, definitely unlucky. Let's have a look down. Cushy, yeah, lots to learn, but we'll get there. Look, I agree. I said this earlier, that this is still very, very early, and to talk about it, since almost giving Newcastle a free pass at this, or giving the players a free pass at this, but they are really early into this. I don't think with the level, or with the amount of players that are missing, with the squad depth that's there, that with the lack of experience at this level, that I think Newcastle will probably have a few games like this, regardless of the competition, regardless of the opposition, where just things aren't quite there, they don't quite click, and the opposition does manage the game a little bit better than they do. But that learning curve, they're on it. They will get there. There are players with some of that experience on at international level, and that have played some Champions League football. But they'll get there. They will. There's plenty of years in these players to be able to get there. And games like tonight will teach them. Games like tonight will give them a basis to go forward to the rest of this this campaign in the Champions League, and for next season. Obviously, if they make the Champions League again, they'll be more and more ready for it. So, yeah, I don't think you can be too disappointed with a defeat in this regard. Frustration, it's one of those. You take it on the chin, you move on, and you go to Dortmund in 2 weeks, and you go, yeah, that's it. We'll go and get 3 points there, and then it looks more and more likely that you qualify for the next stage. And I pray to God it doesn't go down, as the commentator said tonight, that it doesn't go down to the last game against Dortmund. Although that would be a hell of a night at St James's Park. You kind of want it wrapped up earlier than that, because it just the tension of the night might just take it over. So yeah, I think this was a response to the Almiron penalty shout. Like I said, I thought it was a penalty, definitely. So yeah, again, if that's not checked, I don't understand what VAR are doing. And it goes to show it's not just in the Premier League that VAR is absolutely dreadful at times. So, Stephen, we need another forward in January. Yeah, we've talked about this. I think if he's can pick up these knocks regularly, and that's a little concern for me, is the number of these little knocks that he does pick up. And we know that Callum Wilson does suffer with picking up knocks regularly too. So if he can stay fit, great, because he will continue to score goals. But if he does pick up a nil, there really isn't anybody else there, and I think there's definitely a need for a third forward to come in and fill that gap, and give the other two the ability to get a little bit of time away, cup games, that sort of thing, if they want to do it that way. Or even at times, if one is out, they can fill in. But definitely, I think there's a huge gap in that regard, just with the two that are there and their record in terms of injuries over the last season or two. Then definitely, I agree there. Antagonize enjoyed it again. Get some good chances. I think we could have an extra 3 minutes. We could not score. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I was I was taken aback by there only being 4 minutes, but then I think the UEFA had said that they weren't going to have the level of injury time that the Premier League's taken on. So what I thought was it's strange that there were only 4, given the number of substitutions that were made as well. So that seemed, but I think it was one of those where you're probably right. 30 minutes, you probably hit the bar another couple of times. It's just one of those nights. One of those nights. I'll do a couple more comments, so I'll come to some of the more recent ones, and then we will call it a night. I'll let you all go and enjoy the rest of your evening. Where are we? So I'm having trouble with this. Every time I'd move the screen, the chat goes blank. So there we go. Trips needs to back off with the left side free kicks and corners. Look, I think he gives it an option. I think obviously if target's not in the side, that's obviously, but that can't happen. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see when Tonali's in the side. That I think Tonali obviously gives you a different dynamic if set pieces as well. He's definitely capable. I think that the Trippier, as good as he is at it, I think sometimes you need that variety, don't you? And I think if you are going to play Matty Target, definitely utilize him, because he showed tonight he can put a good ball in from left or right, whether you want it in swinging or out swinging. But that ball in for Wilson's header was exceptional, definitely. And then, okay, again, sorry about this. I'm just trying to get through the chat. Yeah, couldn't enjoy it, and I'll leave it at this point. Wilson had to score though, just lifted over it. It's just, like I say, 99.9% of the time, Callum Wilson scores that goal. And again, comes down to is it just one of those frustrating nights where things don't quite go right? But it's definitely should have scored. But equally, I think Dortmund had a chance really, really similar at the other end where Nick Pope pulls off a similar save, so that it could have happened either way. But it is when you see the ball, especially in that area, drop to Callum Wilson, you put your mortgage on. You're expecting the net to bulge at that point, and just frustrating. I'll say it again. I've said it 1,000 times, but I'll say it again. I was a couple more. You guys play very well. I'm assuming from this side you're a Dortmund fan. There does seem to be. Oh yes, I've just seen that one as well. But congratulations on a good win tonight. I think that a draw would have been a more deserved result for both sides. But look, you were a good side. It's no disgrace to lose to Dortmund, definitely, given their experience and things. But we're trying. It's one of those nights. Come back 2 weeks' time. It'd be good to see what the game will be. What the game will be like over there, and hopefully there's a little bit, a little bit of a reaction and a much more positive outcome for Newcastle fans from that one. Definitely. So yeah, I think I'm going to call it a night for that. I apologize, I haven't been able to get through all the chat messages tonight, but yeah, thank you for getting involved. Obviously, we always say, okay, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We are heading on to 5,500 subscribers now. If you want to become a member as well, just hit the join button underneath. It's $1.99 a month. You'll get early access to some of our videos. There's a little bits and pieces in there as well. If you'd like to drop a like on the video as well, it just helps obviously get it around YouTube. We'll be back for definitely a preview for the weekend, and then post match as well for that one. And we'll see you soon. So thank you very much for getting involved, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.